Dawn was only just beginning to settle on the slate roofs of Bracken Bay when the quiet of the village square fractured. A seagull screeched, somewhere a fish van backfired, and then a door crashed open at the Pilgrim's Lantern, the only inn for 30 miles. Gerald Pond, who had poured ale for half the county for 30 years, staggered into the street with a stark white envelope clutched to his chest. His face, already ruddy from a lifetime of sun and stout, had gone the colour of bleached parchment. He managed 3 tottering steps, tried to shout something no one caught, and crumpled on the cobbles. Mabel Kerwin was clipping rose hips along her garden wall when she heard the commotion. 6 months into retirement, the former postmistress still rose before the mail coach out of habit. She set her shears on the stone ledge, checked that her silver bun pins were still tight, and made for the lantern. Locals were already gathering, but they parted when they saw her stride. For decades, Mabel had been the reliable axis of Bracken Bay's clockwork. Every vote tallied, every pension stamped, every polite rumour weighed behind the frosted glass of her counter window. When she said, "Give him air," even the village busybodies obeyed. Gerald was conscious but dazed, breath fluttering like wet laundry. Mabel knelt, felt his pulse, and loosened the envelope from his grip. A single line in scarlet ink crawled across the back. "You have broken the chain. Pay in blood or pay in fear." "Who delivered it?" she asked. Gerald managed. "No postmark. Shoved under my door. 5 this morning." An ambulance carried him away within minutes. Mabel watched its lights bounce down the lane, then turned the envelope over in her hands. Unsealed, but empty. She sniffed inside, no chemical odour. Just paper, a faint ghost of peppermint oil, and the smell of trouble. That afternoon, Marcy Bowl, Bracken Bay's newly minted postmaster, arrived at Mabel's cottage. Her cheeks were red from the climb. The new sorting office squatted lower on the hill than Mabel's snug stone house. "I know you're retired," Marcy began, "but—" "You need help," Mabel supplied. "Come inside." Marcy set a metal tin on the kitchen table. It rattled ominously. 8 letters came through the office over the last month, all addressed to residents here, all with the same wax seal, 3 tapered feathers inside a circle. I thought they were novelty stationery. Now Gerald's, well, I'm not so sure. Mabel drew the curtains, clicked on the kettle, and peeled the lid off the tin. Inside lay 8 identical envelopes. A 9th indentation in the dust showed where Gerald's had sat. She lined them like dominoes across the oilcloth. "Did the recipients mention anything?" she asked. "Only that they contained sentimental claptrap," Marcy said. "A poem, a blessing, instructions to pass it on. You know, chain letters." Mabel did know. The post office kept thick files on all manner of mass mail, from harmless jokes to malicious hoaxes. Yet she'd never seen one sealed with wax in this digital age, nor one that drove a sturdy innkeeper to collapse at first sight. "Let's read them," she said. She slit the first envelope. A single sheet of cream vellum bore an ornate rhyme: "Feather of mercy, feather of grace. Carry this gift to a welcoming place. 12 souls in 12 weeks, the circle complete. Break the embrace, and you forfeit your beat. At the bottom, pass this letter within 7 days." The second letter contained the same verse, but several words had been underlined in shimmering gold ink: feather, mercy, place, embrace. The third letter underlined carry, souls, circle, forfeit. Each successive copy highlighted a different quartet. When Mabel arranged the 8 sheets side by side, half the poem glittered, half remained plain. Marcy swallowed. "Is it a code?" "Perhaps." Mabel's fingers twitched to reach for the logbooks she no longer kept. "Do you know who received each letter?" Marcy nodded. Gerald received the first, which explains why his sheet shows no highlights. Then Lorna Haffey the florist, Ned Rourke the lighthouse keeper, Reverend Cho, the 3 Fisher sisters, and finally Kayla O'Meara, the primary school teacher. "We're missing only Kayla's letter. She hasn't come by the office since Monday." "Gerald was told to pass his along in 7 days," Mabel murmured. "If each recipient did the same, that's 8 weeks total. 4 weeks remain before the stated 12. Whoever engineered this expects 4 more copies to circulate." Marcy's gaze slid to the still unhighlighted words on the sheets. What if the final copy bears the whole message? Or what if the full message is already here, Mabel countered, waiting to be rearranged. Outside, gulls wheeled over the granite breakwater. The kettle whistled. Mabel poured 2 cups of tea, letting the steam fog the air while her thoughts ordered themselves like envelopes in a rack. She began snipping out only the underlined words, arranging them in sequence based on the order the letters had travelled. "Feather carry souls circle mercy place, embrace forfeit cryptic," Marcy said. Could be read straight through. "Feather carry souls circle mercy place, embrace forfeit." Doesn't exactly sing. Mabel fetched an old rotary cipher wheel she kept from her teaching days. Or each word could correspond to a coordinate, but I suspect something simpler. She studied the wax seal. 3 feathers within a ring. Circle, feather, souls. It smells ceremonial. "Occult," Marcy whispered. Mabel shook her head. "More likely historical. The seal resembles the crest of the Society of Turnfeathers, eccentric philanthropists who founded Bracken Bay's first library. Their emblem often appears on century-old stationery." Marcy blinked. "You're telling me a dead reading club sent Gerald a threatening chain letter?" "Someone using their symbol did," Mabel replied. "And they knew enough to pepper each copy with peppermint oil. That library's archive was fumigated with mint for decades to protect against silverfish. Anyone opening these envelopes would subconsciously associate the smell with the Society's materials." "Why target Gerald?" Marcy asked. "And the others? None of them have anything to do with defunct philanthropists." "We'll ask," Mabel said, one by one. By evening, she had bicycled to Lorna's shop, where buckets of chrysanthemums lined the walk. Lorna admitted that a hooded cyclist delivered her letter by hand after closing time, no return address. Fear of bad luck made her copy the text, scrawl a fresh envelope, and slip it through Reverend Cho's vicarage slot the next morning. Reverend Cho confessed she did the same. Her letter passed to Ned Rourke at the lighthouse. Ned passed it to the Fisher sisters, who together wrote one new version and left it on Kayla O'Meara's porch. Kayla, according to Ned, had told him she intended to end the superstitious nonsense by burning her copy. Burning the chain. Breaking the chain. Mabel pedalled back under a bruised sunset, thoughts knocking like loose cans. Kayla's refusal matched the threat scribbled on Gerald's envelope. While Gerald's collapse might be stress or stroke, what if something more tangible stalked the chain-breakers? The next morning, she persuaded Dr. Sander, the village physician, to let her visit Gerald at the hospital. Gerald, propped against pillows, recalled nothing between opening the envelope and waking in the ambulance. Tests showed no heart attack, only an alarming spike in blood pressure. "Felt like someone squeezed the world smaller," he muttered. "Did you keep any part of the letter?" Mabel asked. "I threw it in the pub stove after copying it. Thought that'd be the end." His eyes drifted to the ceiling tiles. Should have known superstition bites. Mabel left him with a basket of rose hips and a promise. She'd find the culprit and make them regret frightening him. Outside, her phone buzzed. Marcy's voice trembled. "Mabel, Kayla's missing. Her neighbour found her door ajar and her cat locked in the pantry, yowling. No sign of Kayla, but there was another envelope on the kitchen table." Mabel cycled so fast the coastal wind tore tears from her eyes. At Kayla's cottage, officers had already strung tape. Detective Inspector Bly greeted her. They'd crossed paths when a counterfeit stamp ring surfaced years earlier. Bly showed her the envelope. Same wax. Inside, the poem appeared again. Only 2 words were now underlined. Pay, fear. On the back, scrawled in the same scarlet, second one taken, 2 remain. Keep the circle unbroken. Bly folded his arms. Seems we have a kidnapping, maybe worse. You helped track illicit parcels before, Mrs. Kerwin. Any insight? Mabel examined Kayla's neat sitting room. Nothing rifled, no signs of struggle. She noticed a faint peppermint tinge stronger near the hearth. A shard of blackened paper rested in the grate, a burned corner of vellum. She tried to burn the chain, Mabel murmured. Someone intercepted her before she finished. Bly frowned. You think the letters are bait? A pretext to remove certain villagers? Maybe not certain villagers, Mabel said slowly. Possibly random, provided they commit the same sin, refusal. But why? Let me look at your evidence board tonight. I need to see timelines. Bly, stretched for staff, agreed. That night, Mabel studied case files in the police annex. She mapped each letter's journey on butcher paper. An odd pattern formed. The hand-delivered path traced a spiral from the westernmost cliff cottages toward the village centre. Gerald's Inn lay directly on the next coil of that spiral. A circle closing. A circle of 12. 4 taken so far. No, only Kayla was truly missing. But Gerald had been incapacitated. What if collapse or removal equaled taken? Before she left, Mabel asked Bly for incident reports of unexplained faintings or illnesses in the same span. 2 surfaced. Lorna collapsed briefly amid her dahlias the morning after passing her letter. Reverend Chu experienced sudden vertigo during Mass. Both recovered quickly, shrugging it off as fatigue. That brought the count to 3 affected, 1 missing, 4 of 12 predicted by the poem. 8 remained. But why assume 12? The letter repeated, 12 souls in 12 weeks. Yet only 9 copies existed so far, unless additional copies already floated outside official channels. Mabel returned home, poured a stiff splash of elderflower cordial, and spread the cut-out words again. Feather carry souls circle mercy place, embrace forfeit pay fear. 10 words, 2 missing to make 12. She reopened Kayla's half-burned scrap recovered from the hearth. With a magnifying lamp, she found a faint golden stroke on one torn edge, perhaps one of the missing underlined words. She barely slept. At dawn, she bicycled to the old library, now shuttered for renovation. With permission from the council groundskeeper, earned by decades of goodwill, she entered the reading room. Dust motes drifted like plankton in weak light. She located the Society of Turnfeathers ledger from 1884. Their crest, 3 feathers encircled, matched the wax. She skimmed minutes of a particular meeting describing a benevolent spiral, bringing charity parcels to 12 homes in the pattern of a nautilus, finishing at the Pilgrim's Lantern, where the founder would host a feast. Benevolence had turned to menace, but the map remained the same. She photographed the page, hurried outside, and dialed Inspector Bly. The chain letters trace a historical delivery route. Next in line after Gerald is the Foxfield Care Home. You must warn them. I'll be there in 10 minutes. Bly dispatched a unit while Mabel pedalled the incline. Halfway there, she saw a figure on a motorbike crest the ridge. Slender, black rain slicker, leather satchel. For a flash, dew glinted on a wax-sealed envelope clamped under their arm. Mabel veered off the path and cut across a paddock, blocking the driveway to Foxfield just as the motorbike pulled in. The rider braked hard, curses muffled behind a visor. "Remove the helmet," Mabel ordered. The rider hesitated, then complied. Copper curls tumbled out, Kayla O'Meara. Mabel's heart lurched. "Kayla, you vanished." "I had to," Kayla panted. "I broke the chain. They said they'd take my mother if I didn't continue it. She's at Foxfield. Please, let me deliver the envelope." Tears carved tracks down her wind-burned cheeks. The envelope shook in her grip. Mabel noted the wax had been broken, then resealed. Inside might hide anything, from a threat to a sedative. "Who are they?" Mabel asked gently. For answer, Kayla reached into her satchel and produced a small grey inhaler, stamped with a red triangle. "They gave me these to spray inside each envelope. Said it's harmless but triggers fainting for anyone with heart issues." Her voice cracked. "I didn't know Gerald." Mabel's mind raced. A strong peppermint scent could mask aerosol residue. That explained the collapses. "Who hired you?" Kayla slumped, defeated. "Derek Vaughan, claims developer from the city. He wants to buy property cheap around the village centre for a luxury marina. He's targeting owners along the spiral, hoping fear will drive them to sell. He offered to clear my mother's debts at Foxfield if I helped. When I tried to stop, he threatened her." A chill steadied Mabel's resolve. "Give me the rest of the letters." Kayla opened her satchel. 3 more sealed envelopes lay inside, enough to reach the poem's predicted 12. Mabel placed them in her own bicycle basket. She dialed Bly again. "I have our culprit's pawn. Meet me at the pier with reinforcements, and alert the care home. They're safe." 40 minutes later, the pier bustled with officers. Bly had traced Derek Vaughan to a rented bungalow overlooking the harbour. As police advanced, Mabel, insisting on coming, watched from behind a seawall. She saw Vaughan, a sleek man in nautical stripes, try to bolt down a side alley. 2 constables tackled him. Evidence seized inside included vials of aerosolized etorphine, stacks of pre-addressed envelopes, and ledger pages marking property offers tied to each target. When Kayla confronted him, her fury outweighed her fear. "You said no one would be hurt," she shouted. Vaughan's smile was reptilian. "A dizzy spell is hardly hurt, and whisper campaigns work better than legal notices." Mabel stepped forward. "You miscalculated 2 things, Mr. Vaughan. First, greed is louder than superstition, but compassion is louder still. Second, you overlooked the postal network. We remember every stamp, every seal, every face at the counter." Bly cuffed Vaughan, reading rights over the crash of waves. Mabel felt an old, familiar satisfaction, like balancing the weekly accounts. Later, in the lantern's snug, villagers gathered. Gerald, released from hospital, raised a mild cider in shaky thanks. Lorna brought flowers. Reverend Cho offered a prayer of gratitude. Kayla, though still raw from betrayal and arrest paperwork, explained everything to her mother and the community, begging forgiveness. Most granted it. Bracken Bay was stern yet fair, especially when an outsider's manipulation emerged. Marcy nudged Mabel. "Retirement looks good on you," she teased. "How about returning to the post office as consultant?" Mabel laughed, lines around her eyes deepening. Only if I can set my own hours and band chain letters. Gerald tapped a spoon against a glass. A toast, he declared, to Mabel Kerwin, keeper of secrets, bringer of truth. Applause rippled. Mabel accepted with modest dip of her head. The next morning she strolled to her garden. Sunlight glazed the roses. On her porch lay a plain envelope. Her pulse quickened until she saw ordinary postage and handwriting she recognized, Marcy's looping script. Inside, a single sheet read, "No more chains, only thanks. Coffee at 10. Mabel smiled, folded the note, and slipped it into her apron pocket. Some messages, she thought, are worth delivering again and again.